Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hello.
Today, we're taking a look at something, well, incredibly common, something I think you've definitely experienced, probably from both sides, actually. Asking someone for something. Specifically, using polite language when you're making that request, especially in those slightly awkward situations, like maybe asking your parents for favors as a teenager.
Yeah, it's a universal theme, isn't it? That subtle art of the ask.
Totally.
And we've got a really interesting source today that gives us a great case study. It's a transcript from an English learning podcast.
Okay.
And it focuses on this simple dialogue between a teenage girl and her dad.
Right. Now, the original source, its goal was language learning, sure. But our mission here in this deep dive, it's a bit different. We want to use this dialogue as a lens, to unpack not just the useful vocabulary or the polite phrases it points out,
Right.
but also the dynamics, the strategy, the underlying currents in these kinds of conversations.
Exactly. What can this seemingly simple little exchange actually teach us about, well, effective communication, negotiation even, whether you're a teenager now or an adult, or maybe even navigating like a professional setting?
Yeah, because these aren't just lines for kids, are they?
No, not
Okay.
at all. The principles, politeness, framing your request, they apply right across the board.
Sure.
You might find yourself needing to ask for time off or borrow some equipment or maybe just ask a colleague for a bit of help. It's the same kind of interaction, fundamentally.
Okay, let's dive in then. So the scenario our source sets up, it's instantly relatable. A teenager needs something, right? And they're approaching a parent. But before we get to the actual request, the dialogue centers around a pretty common event.
Yeah, the reason for the whole ask is that she wants to go to a concert.
Concert. C-O-N-C-E-R-T, a word we all know. The source defines it pretty simply as an event where people play music.
Which is straightforward enough, yeah. They give examples, rock concert, pop concert, classical.
Right, violins, piano.
Yeah. The key point the source makes, probably just for clarity for the language learners it was aimed at, is that a concert is always about music.
Gotcha.
So that provides the concrete context for the daughter's upcoming request. It's why she needs something.
It sets the stage, okay.
Okay.
So we have a teenager. She wants to go to this concert, and she needs something from her dad to make it happen. Let's look at how this plays out in the actual dialogue the source transcript gives us.
Okay. So the conversation starts with a familiar tactic. You often see this when you're about to ask for a favor, right?
Oh, yeah.
The daughter begins, "Hey, Daddy, you look great today. I like your tie, by the way."
The pre-request compliment. Classic strategic opening.
Totally. Trying to build up that goodwill before dropping the ask.
Makes sense.
Precisely. Then she moves in, "I was wondering, can I?" But get this. The dad doesn't even let her finish.
Really?
Yeah. He cuts her off with this firm, immediate no, and then adds, "I haven't even told you what it is yet."
Wow. That's almost comical. He just assumes.
He assumes he knows what's coming before she even says it. Which, tells you something about the history of these conversations between them.
Yes, suggests a pattern. There's clearly an established pattern there. And maybe the dad's just anticipating a difficult request.
Could be. So then he pivots, kind of resignedly asking, okay, what do you want?
And the daughter gets straight to it. The core request. Do you think I could borrow the car?
The car.
The car. And she gives the context. I'm going to a concert tonight. Smelly Toes is playing.
Smelly Toes, okay.
And Eric asked me to go with him.
Right. So the request is clear. And she gives two reasons. The event, Smelly Toes concert, and the social thing. Going with this Eric guy. How does Dad respond?
It's another refusal. But with a reason this time. I don't think so, he says.
Okay.
I need the car tonight to pick up your mother. G. He uses her initial. I told you about it last week. So he grounds his refusal in, like a prior commitment he thinks she should have remembered.
Right, shifting the responsibility a bit. But then he gets sidetracked, which, that's pretty common in these negotiations, especially with teenagers. He focuses on the new info. Who is this Eric guy?
The protective dad moment. And her response to that specific question, the source tells us, is just peak teenager.
Let me guess.
Duh. He's like the hottest and most popular guy at school.
Of course, duh. The eye roll is practically audible, right?
Exactly. She's trying to use his social status as maybe a justification, or maybe just implying why this concert is so important.
Yeah, leveraging the social pressure angle. Then what?
Then she resorts to pleading. Come on, Dad, please, please.
Right, the fallback tactic. Understandable when the initial request and the reasons fail, but often not very effective.
And, yeah, it isn't here. The dad stays firm. No can do, sorry.
Okay, so car request denied. Flat out. This leads to a shift in her approach then.
It does. And her immediate reaction is captured by this phrase the source highlights. Fine then.
Fine then. Ooh. What does that really communicate here?
Well, the source explains this pretty well. Fine then isn't like genuine agreement.
No.
It's used when you concede or you agree to something,
Yeah.
but you're definitely not happy about it.
Right.
Maybe you're angry or you just feel you have no other choice. It often carries this passive-aggressive tone.
Yeah, I can hear it. It's the sound of reluctant acceptance, maybe resignation, but laced with dissatisfaction.
Exactly. The source gives examples like saying, if you won't go with me, fine then, I'll go by myself.
Yeah.
Or if you want to break up, fine then, I don't care.
Ouch.
Or even a parent saying, you want to go out with your friends? Fine then, go.
Oh.
It signals the end of this particular negotiation, but definitely not the end of the frustration.
Right. And importantly, the source notes that even though it has the word fine in it, this is not a polite phrase.
Definitely not.
Absolutely not something you'd say in a formal setting like to your boss, because it just screams discontent or resentment.
Understood. So she uses fine then, signaling defeat on the car front.
Mm.
What's her immediate next move in the dialogue?
It's a quick pivot to an alternative request. Would you mind giving me $100?
Wow, $100. Classic second attempt, though. Go for the money if the car's out.
Yep. And the dad's response to this one is a bit different. It's, no way, G, that's so unfair.
Ah, so not just a simple no, but adding a judgment about the request itself.
Exactly. He sees that large sum, especially right after the car denial, as just an unfair jump.
Makes sense.
And the source kind of wraps up this whole exchange with the summary line, something like, teenagers, huh? Yeah, they're always asking for something.
Which, okay, might be true sometimes, but the dynamic isn't really unique to teenagers and parents, is it?
No, it's about managing expectations, dealing with refusal, pivoting requests. That happens everywhere.
So let's step back now and look at the specific language the source highlights as, like, useful for polite requests, kind of contrasting with the fine them, or that blunt initial approach.
Right. Yeah, the source points out 3 really excellent phrases for asking politely, and these are incredibly useful in loads of contexts. The first one, actually, the daughter tried to use it initially before being cut off, is, I was wondering.
Okay. How does that structure usually work? What comes next?
You typically follow it with something like, can I, or if you could, or similar constructions. The source gives examples like, I was wondering, can I borrow your car? That's the one she tried. Or I was wondering, can I stay at your house? Or even for a group, we were wondering if you could buy the tickets for us.
It feels less direct, doesn't it, than just, can I borrow or give me?
It absolutely does. Using I was wondering sort of sets up the request by signaling that you're aware you're about to ask for something that might require effort or permission from the other person.
Right, it softens it.
Yeah, it softens the approach, makes the request feel less demanding. It's actually a really nice way to open a question, especially if you think it might be inconvenient for the other person.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second polite phrase the source pulls out?
Do you think I could?
Do you think I could? And how does that one function?
Similar. Structurally, yeah, pretty similar. Do you think I could do something? Examples from the source included. Do you think I could use your computer? Or, applying it back to the original scenario, do you think I could borrow the car?
Okay.
They even showed a work example. Do you think you can have those reports finished by today? Asking a subordinate, maybe?
The source says this one is basically the same as I was wondering. Would you agree with that?
For many situations, yeah, I think they serve a very similar purpose. They're both polite, they're indirect. Maybe, do you think I could? Slightly shifts the focus onto the possibility from the other person's perspective. Like you're asking them to consider the feasibility from their end, which is inherently respectful, you know?
Yeah, I see that.
And I think both phrases create space for a no without the asker losing face too dramatically, which is pretty key in polite requests.
Good point. Okay. And the third phrase, this was the one with the specific grammar point, right?
Yes. Would you mind? This phrase is very polite, very useful, but you must follow it with the gerund form of the verb. That's the verb plus ing.
Right. So would you mind holding this for me? Not, would you mind to hold this for me?
Exactly right. The source gives examples like, would you mind finishing this report for me? Or would you mind cooking dinner tonight? They even show one with lower, would you mind lowering your voice? The critical rule, as the source really emphasizes, is never would you mind to verb. That's just wrong. It's always would you mind verb plus ing.
Why do you think this structure specifically is seen as so polite? What's it doing?
Well, it directly asks if the requested action would be a bother or an inconvenience to the other person.
Oh, okay.
Like, would it cause you trouble or difficulty if you did this? By framing it that way, you're explicitly showing consideration for their time or their comfort or their effort.
Right.
It highlights that you recognize you're asking them to do something for you, and that might require some effort from them. It's a very deferential way to ask.
That makes perfect sense. So, okay, I was wondering, do you think I could, and would you mind? Plus that ing verb, those are the key tools in the polite request toolbox pulled from this dialogue and the explanations around it.
Yeah, and they offer much smoother alternatives than, the more direct or demanding approaches we saw fail in the dialogue.
Looking at this whole dynamic,
Yeah.
the asking, the refusing, the negotiating it, does bring back a lot of relatable experiences, just like the source hinted at with those personal anecdotes from its original hosts.
Oh, absolutely. The source mentioned one host's dad who would sometimes just cut him off with no right away, maybe even as a joke, but still.
Yeah, just like the dad in our dialogue.
Exactly, and borrowing the car was always this big negotiation.
Right.
And if the car was lent, there was often a condition attached. Like one host said there was a payment involved, like having to wash the car the next day.
Ah, the quid pro quo.
Yeah, it wasn't just a free handout. There was definitely an exchange expected.
Right. My own experience, sometimes it was just being told to take the bus, when we lived closer to downtown because it was simply cheaper.
Sensible.
But then later, when we lived further out, the car was suddenly much more available because there was no public transport alternative. Necessity changed the rules.
And even then, one host mentioned they often got stuck with the worst car, the clunker,
Ah, been there.
which sometimes led to its own adventures, like breaking down in the middle of the street. So even when the request was granted, the terms might not have been exactly ideal.
No kidding. The universe testing your resourcefulness, maybe?
Maybe. And the ultimate resolution for one of the hosts in the source, simply buying their own car or getting a motorcycle.
Oh, independence. Solve the negotiation problem entirely.
Exactly. And these stories resonate, right? Because they tap into those common dynamics, asking for resources, permissions, favors within relationships. And the source actually prompts you, the listener, to think about this too.
It does. It asks, what did you often find yourself asking your parents for? Was it usually money? The car keys? Maybe something less conventional.
Yeah. The source playfully suggests things like, maybe you asked for a pony, or the keys to a friend's family's summer home.
Oh, pony. Right.
The specific requests can vary wildly, of course, but the underlying dynamic, that feeling of needing something from someone who has the power to grant it or deny it, that's pretty much the same.
It's a fundamental part of growing up, isn't it? And just navigating relationships in general. This deep dive into what looked like a simple English learning transcript has actually given us a great framework for analyzing the strategy, the pitfalls, and the more effective ways to ask for things.
Yeah, we've seen how a direct or demanding approach, especially when it's met with refusal, can quickly spiral into frustration or that passive-aggressive fine then. And we've contrasted that with those, graceful, polite openings like, I was wondering, do you think I could? And would you mind? Phrases that respect the other person's position and, frankly, make a positive response more likely.
It really highlights the importance of how you frame your request. It's not just what you're asking for, is it?
Not at all. It really isn't.
Well,
And if we kind of connect this back to the bigger picture, using this dialogue and these phrases as our guide, here's something to think about.
Okay.
Based on the different ways the daughter asks and the way the dad responds,
Yeah.
what do you think genuinely influences the success of a request? Is it the reason she gives? Is it the level of politeness? Is it the history between the people? Or maybe the asker's ability to pivot like she tried to do?
Good question.
And maybe how might consciously, using some of these more polite and strategic phrasing techniques we talked about, how might that change the outcome the next time you need to ask for something important, whether it's at home or at work or anywhere else in your own life? Something to ponder.